Well, hello, everybody. It's Friday and it's time for Realcomm Live. Welcome to episode 13. Can't believe it's been all these episodes already this year. We're coming to the end of the year. It's been an awful lot of fun, and we've had some incredible people, as we do today. We're going to hear from people from two phenomenal organizations, RXR Realty and Urban Edge, two leading edge companies, not just by name, but by action. Some of the most innovative projects we've seen this year coming out of these two companies, and it's going to be exciting to talk to them today. What I'd like to do is, before we bring on Cory from RXR, I want to show you a quick little video that they produced. It gives you a little bit of idea of what they're doing, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation.
My name is Scott Reckler. I'm CEO and chairman of RXR Realty. From our formation in 2007, we became one of the largest owners of office properties in the New York metro region. What used to be the real estate of the past, which was about building a building with four walls and collecting rent, as we've grown that business, what became clear to us is that it was more about activating what happened within those four walls and thinking about real estate as a service to support your customers. And we were on that path to reimagine the future of that workplace. And COVID hits. New Yorkers have the ability to overcome the greatest challenges our nation ever faced. And whenever we've had these challenges, we come back and we rebuild stronger. But I felt it was a civic responsibility to bring people back to the workplaces, because for every one person that's working in an office building, it creates 5 service jobs. To bring people back to work rejuvenates and reactivates our city streets and our small businesses and the energy that makes New York great. In talking through things with the Microsoft team, we developed what we call RXWell. We took the best of our physical and our digital, what we call Phygital, to build a holistic program to bring people back to the workplace so they're safe, that they feel safe, that they can see the transparency of the health and wellness of the buildings, and the tools to change behaviors to get the best of the workplace during this abnormal period. These tools enable us to monitor compliance. What's the capacity in any of our particular spaces? Are people wearing their face masks? Are people social distancing? With Microsoft, we then began to think about how do we use the tools that we create to help reopen our office buildings, to help reopen New York City? How do we open the great indoors that people can come back and experience New York City's extraordinary restaurants, cultural institutions, retail venues, and streetscapes that make our city so special? And do it in a way so that they know every precaution has been taken to ensure that they are safe and that people around them are complying with the necessary safety protocols. By doing this, we can figure out how to reopen our city and responsibly coexist with COVID. We're not returning to what once was, nor can we just wait for the coronavirus to go away. With RXWell, we have the tools to safely and responsibly thrive in the new abnormal. Whether it's reconnecting with our colleagues, having dinner with friends, or getting lost in a museum, RXWell provides the tools to keep us safe, combined with the transparency we need to feel safe. It's time to reopen the great indoors.
All right, with that, I'd like to bring on Cory Clarke, the Vice President of Product Management for RXR Realty. Cory, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Very good to see you. And I got to tell you, listening to Scott's video, very well produced, the video, by the way, his passion to get people back into buildings safely. That was our mantra this year. That's why we did the hybrid event with people actually on site in Denver. Had all sorts of COVID technologies, which we're going to talk about some of those today. But really appreciate, your efforts in trying to get people back into buildings safely. You should be proud of that effort.
Thanks. Thanks.
So to get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey into this COVID technology? I know you guys were doing some pretty interesting things before that. And then, as he said, when COVID hit, can you tell us a little bit about the timing in the March, April timeframe, where you were with the technology, and then what led the way to some of the decisions to really put the pedal to the metal, if you will?
Sure. So yeah, pre-COVID, we'd really been focused on building two things. One, like a data platform to pull in, building data, occupancy, air quality, energy information, and really to drive building operations, optimization, efficiency. And then we were also focused on the tenant experience side and really developing a relationship with the actual occupiers in our buildings. So having a channel to talk to them through a tenant app, and also rolling out services like what we call the RXO or RXR Experience Officer. So we were right in the midst of that, had done a lot of the groundwork. And then, March kind of hit, shut down, everybody went home. We kind of, a couple of days of shell shock, and then realized that, people are going to come back. We kind of put a line in the sand and decided we thought maybe Memorial Day would be when things might open back up again. We worked with Northwell. We have a strong relationship with them. They're a large hospital chain, medical chain in the Northeast. So they've been acting as advisors alongside of this. So they helped us kind of set that line in the sand when they thought people might start coming back. And we basically pivoted. We took all that tech that we'd built. We had kind of the infrastructure in place and really repurposed a lot of it for wellness. So the same air quality information, the same occupancy information, but instead of looking at it through the lens of efficiency, we're looking at it now through wellness. We're checking the air quality, CO2 relative to outside to make sure that we have the right freshness. We're kind of managing the humidity levels between 40 and 60% because that helps reduce the transmission of COVID. So, all of the tech that we had, we can now kind of look through the lens of COVID and wellness. And the same with the employee app. We've given them a tool to get that data as well, and also to kind of make the building safe, the building access questionnaire, the kind of information that's and kind of tools that a lot of people are using to reopen their space.
So give us, when we were chatting, you told me that you got a significant number of people back in the office. So number one, can you tell us about how many people are back in your offices? And then number two, can you take us through a day in the life of, coming to the building, filling out the questionnaire? Tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. The whole numbers don't matter as much, but the percentage of occupancy is I think notable. So in our Long Island portfolio, a lot of our buildings are close to 50% occupied at this point. So a lot of people have come back. Manhattan's closer to the kind of 15%. And the main reason for that, honestly, is the commute. People can drive in Long Island. People are still afraid of the commute in New York.
Right.
But that has been slowly ticking up. What was there was a second question.
The day in the life of, if somebody's getting ready to go to work, what does their day look like? Do they fill out an app? When they get to the door, what happens?
Sure. Yeah. So, it does start with, you can open the app. There's two things there. So there is the building access questionnaire. You can take that anytime before you come in. Typical questions, required by the CDC in New York State. There's also paired with that actually a telemedicine offering. So we're actually offering kind of free telemedicine and medical concierge to everybody in our buildings, because we found as people were filling out that questionnaire, you get to that question around, do you have aches? Do you have a headache? And you start to second guess yourself. You're not sure if you have COVID or maybe you just have a headache. So you can talk to a trained medical personnel. They can walk you through those questions and help you, with the answers there. And then the other thing
goes way beyond COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're seeing a lot of these features having, long-term value, like having more medical services in the office is a draw to bring people in. The other piece that you can do kind of pre-entry is really check the building itself. So you can see current occupancy, the foot traffic in the lobby and how crowded it is, and even the next peak time. So you can kind of time your entry, and that's actually one of the most popular features we have in the app, other than the building access questionnaire, which is required to get in. But after that, it's the data and people being able to kind of see what the building's like. And then you come in, you use your building access questionnaire to get into the building, and we're tying that to the building access and credentials right now. And then, the app has a lot of functionality throughout the day, and you can kind of check occupancy in the next peak anytime to kind of decide when you're going to go out for lunch. But you can also order food. We've struck a lot of partnerships with local delivery companies. They'll do delivery direct into the building, and that's actually coordinated with our RXO, and they'll contact you and tell you your food is here. And it gets delivered in a kind of touchless station for you to pick up the food. And then there's other things. You can check bathroom occupancy. Last time it was cleaned. You can also request cleaning. So there's a lot of things through the day just to kind of monitor cleanliness and, make sure the space is as clean as possible. And then if you've enrolled in, we also have a testing program now that we're offering to our tenants. That's asymptomatic surveillance testing. So you can also do that through the app. Schedule your test, get your results, and yeah, and then you can head home.
And then how about you have the contact tracing technology as well? How does that work?
Sure. Yeah. So contact tracing, it's not actually in the app. Well, it is, but we don't. It's not like the Google and Apple one where we're tracking people with the app. We don't do any of that. There's actually a wearable that we have that's completely optional. The reason we went with wearables is it's more kind of privacy first. You can leave this at the office. You're not being tracked. You can turn it off if you want to. It only tracks proximity to other wearables. So it's completely anonymous as well. And you can pair it with your phone, the RxWell app, and actually see your personal social distancing behavior. And we kind of gamify that as well. So you can see, how many contacts you've had through the day or through the week, how much time you've been exposed, and how you're performing relative to your company. And then it does have the benefit behind the scenes of if there is a need, the HR professional in our company does have the key to kind of unlock these and do a full contact trace if they need to.
I think the good news is, though, it's optional, which probably puts people at ease a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And knows that if they don't want to, and I would imagine you probably have more people opting in because it is in fact optional.
Yeah. I mean, it's optional, but strongly recommended. We're about 80%, which is pretty good. There's always definitely some people that, want to protect their privacy and they're free to do so. But everyone seems to be much more comfortable with these. We surveyed them also about doing it with the phone. And we were kind of afraid people would just delete the app, honestly.
So you've got a lot of people back in your offices for a long time, right? You leaned into this thing. You grabbed some technology and you tried to make the building safer, just like we did at the conference with the symptom sense scanner and the reverse polar ionization and the microbial swabbing. I mean, we look for some things.
Yeah.
How are your people responding to it? What's been the response?
I mean, it's been great. Even just talking to our tenants, they've, particularly the ones that are in other buildings in New York have, expressed that they've come back to our building sooner just because we do have this tech. So it seems to be working and making people feel more comfortable. And like I said, the access to the data, just the end employees that we spoke to, just knowing, being able to see the air quality and kind of know that it's within that optimal range gives them that sense of comfort.
So, I mean, we only have a minute or so left, so I'm going to ask you a question. Using a baseball metaphor, you guys bunted and stole third, okay? Is the way I look at it. I mean, everybody was up against a bad situation. You leaned in. You didn't steal second. You stole third. What in our last minute, what do you say to your peers about leaning into this, finding the technology, finding the solutions to get people back into their buildings?
That's tough. I think, I would say, one of the things we did was shoot for an MVP, move as quickly as possible, but don't try and, boil the ocean, as they say, to use another metaphor, though it doesn't align with baseball. I think that we focused on really small initial launch in June of just this app, a couple data points, and then to be able to iterate quickly and pivot, as opposed to really trying to come up with a whole comprehensive solution. We've ended up with a comprehensive solution, but we kind of, started small.
Okay. Well, I know how busy you are. It takes a lot to be a leader, and I really consider you guys leaders. And, this has not been an easy year, but you can't stop. What we tell our team is, I don't care how fast you move, how far you move, just move. And staying in place is not an option. So even if you strike out, swing the bat and try to help our industry get back. Because as it's mentioned in the video, a lot of industries are relying on us getting back into these buildings.
Yeah.
And I know in my town, restaurants are closing and people are losing their businesses, their livelihoods, and it's equally as painful as this COVID. And we got to do whatever we can to try to navigate this thing. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and enjoy the holidays. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time today.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Be well.
All right.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick break and hear from one of our great sponsors, Integrated Building Solutions. All right. Now, our next guest, a vibrant woman, full of energy, great attitude, just such an integral part of our community. Cecilia Li, who is the SVP of Information Technology for Urban Edge. Why don't we bring Celia on and say hello? How are you?
Hello, Jim. How are you?
Good. Not only do you bring your smarts to the conversation, you bring your incredible attitude and smile. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. And thank you for having me today. It's really an honor.
Yeah. Well, we do have a great community, and we would not have anything if it was not for people like you. You have a full-time job, and yet, that core group of our community, anytime we ask, they just say whatever. And to us, that's an honor to be able to facilitate these conversations, and an absolute joy to, have people like you on who are willing to share your smarts as well as your time and your energy. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
So let's start with a little background on Urban Edge. Just give the audience a little bit of an idea of what you do and the size and the type of portfolio, and then we're going to get into some questions about some technology.
Sure. So as you already mentioned, I'm the Senior Vice President of IT for Urban Edge Properties. We are a New York Stock Exchange listed real estate investment trust focused on managing, acquiring, developing, redeveloping retail real estate in urban communities, predominantly in the New York metropolitan region. We own 78 properties totaling 15.1 million square feet of gross leasable area. So that's who we are in a nutshell.
So, obviously you have to live in two worlds. One is the office world that all of you live in, and then there's your portfolio, which is predominantly retail. Let's start with the office side. This pandemic hit us all pretty hard in March, and you kind of were prescient. You were preparing for this early on and making some moves inside the company to get you more agile, more mobile. Why don't we go back about 18 months before the pandemic? Tell us what was on your mind, and then tell us how that played into what happened once this thing started.
Sure. So, from a technology standpoint, we were very fortunate that we had invested in our technology and our infrastructure prior to the pandemic. At Urban Edge, we believe in the benefits of accessing up-to-date data seamlessly, regardless of where you are. And so this is why over the last couple of years, we migrated over 97% of our platforms to the cloud. And this is why, as we continue to bring in new systems and functionality, and we continue to add integrations, we ensure that it works well within our environment and it aligns with our technology. So we also provide all of our users, 100% of our users, with tools that enables them to access resources from anywhere, whether you're working from home, another office, or on the road. So when the pandemic hit, we were able to quickly switch gears and devote our team resources to ensure we had the proper licensing, finalize all security aspects, and coordinate and communicate the new protocols to the staff and train users how to fully utilize our systems like soft phones, conferencing tools from home. But pretty much, going to cloud-based platforms ahead of time really gave us an advantage, and the speed to quickly switch gears and the ability to continuously, nonstop, right, support our users and our systems remotely, and leveraging our partners who are cloud-based to support our platforms seamlessly. So really, if any company out there is still debating the benefits of a cloud-based solution,
You can
I
bring on this.
encourage you to investigate it from the viewpoint of agility, because it certainly helped us tremendously.
So just so we understand, you had a vision for cloud-based work from anywhere, mobility, agility,
Mhm.
way before this thing hit, right? And so you were prepared when it hit. When you flipped that switch in the beginning of March, how smooth was it?
I mean, look, I don't want to downplay the severity of the situation, because I know that we were in a very good position, right? But I mean, the CEO said tomorrow, and that's it. Tomorrow we went.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and that's why, I really owe it to the readiness and the agility of being cloud-based.
Mhm. And cloud-based also includes having people at home with broadband and laptop computers and, no
Absolutely.
file cabinets, sitting in somebody's office. I mean, the cloud is the architecture, but organizationally, you had to make some significant changes. What kind of leadership was required to make those changes, especially in an organization that says you need to come someplace to do your job, as we all typically have in the office world?
Yeah. Look, for me, the lesson is very simple, right? As an IT leader, if you're an IT leader, you need to make sure you understand the corporate vision of its IT needs, and that you have your executives teams buy-in to support you through the process needed to execute the IT vision, which includes, the user adoption of the technology, the proper funding, and the resource allocation. And if you're a business executive, right, technology is no longer a luxury or a nice thing to have. And I think we're all clear by now that it's a must-have, right? And that just barely getting by with technology it's no longer enough. And what's going to set you apart and differentiate your company from the rest, it's being forward thinking, right? Uh,
Right.
and so companies need to start thinking about the data is not another, it's another form of a strategic asset. So the leadership, right? It's having your leadership with you through that journey of forward thinking, taking them along with you, is truly important. And we were very blessed with that. So when we talk about technology, we say, okay, let's think big. Let's think sci-fi when we're planning our vision board, because chances are whatever we're envisioning, the technology already exists, right?
Exactly. Yep.
The key is you need to when you're going through this exercise, is to make sure you have your business side brainstorming alongside with you, right?
That's critical. And a lot of people don't realize that. And they kind of work in a silo, and then they take the technology to the business leadership almost in a tactical format as opposed to strategic. And that never ends well. Yeah. Let
No.
me ask you a question. Do you think that the pandemic and what you had to do for your organization elevated your position in the eyes of other executives?
I think it made us play a different role. In addition to the role that we play on keeping the lights on, it put us in a strategic position in to help our executive team, right? Not only to keep the business moving forward, but also to solve problems. So I'll
Right.
give you an example. COVID impacted everybody, all the industries vastly. But for us in retail, I mean, really did a lot, right? Like you think about it, everybody's shopping online. Restaurants are barely open, or if not, like doing a takeout, right? And so, I put my business hat on and I said, how can I help the business do their job easily, more seamlessly? Whether it is by improving processes, making things more efficient, or providing them data so that they can make business decisions quickly, right?
Right.
And so, yes, to answer your question, it definitely put us in a different uh, role, right? And if we embraced it, which I think many of us did, it helped. It put us in a place where we help executives make their lives easier.
Well, one of the reasons I was inspired to found Realcomm 22 years ago, I was a CIO in an organization and was determined not just to be the person who fixed the CEO's PC, but I wanted a seat at that table. And the goal behind Realcomm for 22 years has been, because I believe in the strategic importance of IT, was to get you and all of our peers at that table, not as a tactical participant, but as a strategic. And it sounds like that's what you've done.
Absolutely. And look, I think it's important that your business acknowledges the importance of technologies, but it's equally as important that us as technologists acknowledge that we're here to support the business.
And that you understand the business. You
Right.
fundamentally understand how the money flows, who needs to be served, and what the ultimate objective is. And I think we've lost a little of that over the years, but I think we're starting to regain it a little bit. So
Absolutely. Yeah. One thing that I always tell people is it's not about what's the latest and greatest technology out there. It's about what type of technology works for you.
For you. Yeah. What is the goal? What is the goal? And then just put the technology in place that you need. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So unfortunately, I could talk to you all day. Unfortunately, we are out of time. These segments go so quickly, but I got to tell you again, thank you so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. You bring so much insight to the conversation, and hopefully we're going to have you on again.
Thank you so much.
Be well. All right, gosh, always like talking to Cecilia. Just a bowl of positive energy. It's good to, especially these days and time, it's important to have that kind of an attitude. So with that, I'm going to bring on my favorite person on the Realcomm team. Actually, I shouldn't say that they're all my favorite people, but let's bring on Howard Berger, who's going to give us a little bit of overview of what happened this week in the news, in the prop tech news world. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thanks, Jim. And great show with Cecilia and Cory.
Yeah, both Cory and Cecilia. Again, what a lineup. Two true leaders. So what's going on this week?
Well, I'll give you a little sampling of our featured articles from this week's weekly news briefing. And that's released every Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific. Subscription's free. Obviously, you can sign up by going to our website, realcomm2ms.com, and just click on news. But this week's lead article comes from Srini Kandavili. He's the smart building solution architect at Microsoft and one of our longtime IBCon advisors. And his piece focuses on the importance of using IoT data more effectively for space management and analytics. Over the past 5 years or so, I mean, there's been a huge influx of technology solution providers with sensors and space management and analytics solution that aggregate occupancy, traffic, and a bunch of other sensor data. The problem is you get these huge data sets and customers don't always know what to do with them. So how do you apply all this data to really solve business problems? And this gets even more complicated when you have an array of different sensor types and you're looking for ways to correlate those multiple data streams, because the ultimate goal is to drive improved utilization, wellness, productivity, and customer or tenant experience. So Srini's article this week, it really highlights the need for our technology solution providers to step up their game and help bridge that gap so customers can derive real value from their sensor data. Also, just lost my, get this up here. Also, this week's news, Google Cloud, I'm trying to get the picture. Come on, guys. Give me 1 second. There we go. Google Cloud's now partnering with over 200 application developers to move their compute services closer to their customer base from remote data centers. This is edge computing, of course. And if you couple this computing strategy with 5G network rollout, this edge data center technology architecture literally going to transform data service delivery by increasing speed and decreasing lag time, especially with some of these next generation applications like industrial and warehouse robotics and AR/VR services for real-time applications like facility maintenance and repair, live video from concerts and sporting events, cashierless checkouts, and really any application that would suffer because of latency. So bottom line, keep an eye on Google, and for that matter, Microsoft, Amazon, and the other cloud providers for some interesting new cloud data delivery strategies. And we have one more. This thing just got to keep losing this thing. Hopefully it comes back. Whether you love or hate facial recognition applications, they're now embedded in many of the business and consumer technologies that we use on a daily basis. So take your iPhone, for example. You can unlock the phone, you can approve purchases, otherwise validate your identity by simply pointing your phone at your face. Very convenient. That is, unless you're in a pandemic and wearing a mask. So Not surprising that NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, found some extremely high data error rates, over 50%, when the lower half of someone's face is even partially obscured. The good news is NIST also discovered that facial recognition algorithms can be finely tuned to greatly improve accuracy with masks, hats, or even sunglasses. And this means that if you're using facial recognition algorithms for access control or other processes in your buildings during COVID, there's hope that the error rates can be dramatically reduced with these new modified algos. So with that, I'm out of time. That's it for today.
Too much news. Lots going on this week. A lot of stories, a lot of big people making big moves, specifically in the smart building world, integration into the back-end enterprise. But on this topic of facial recognition, we've been following it for a number of years. As excited as we are about the technology, we're going to also take the other side and make sure the privacy implications are considered and the issues are addressed. And so it's going to be an interesting year going into 2021. And Howard, thank you again. You do such a great job every week, not just reporting this to us, but helping to curate these millions of articles down to 10 and down to 3 for this show. So thank you so much. And we will see you shortly.
Thanks, Phil.
Be well. All right. Well, we are getting close to wrapping episode 13. Let's take a quick look at one of our sponsors, and I'm going to be back to wrap the show. All right. So what do we get from this week's show? We got a leading real estate organization in the New York area, leaning into technology, trying to make their buildings safe, really pushing the envelope as far as what will it take to make people feeling comfortable to come back inside buildings, RXR. And I want to thank them for that. And of course, Cecilia Li from Urban Edge. What did I take from that conversation? They were prepared before the pandemic, as most organizations should be, getting ready to be agile, be mobile, use that space in flexible ways. And then what else I heard was, leaning into the customers, listening to their needs, understanding where they're at to make sure that as a landlord, you can help your tenants do their businesses better. 2 great messages from 2 great organizations and 2 great people. So next week's guest, we have none. We're going to take the rest of the year off. Enjoy the holidays, get ready for the new year, and we will see you back on episode 14 for Realcomm Live, first week of January. So with that, be well to all of you. Thank you for watching. Have a great, safe, and blessed holiday season, and we will see you in the new year. Take care.